You can hear him on the Close Up podcast with Stephen Cameron. We welcome Stephen Cameron onto Hoopsology. Welcome, Stephen.
Hey, thanks for having me, fellas. How y'all doing?
Doing really well. Thanks for coming on to the show. And with our podcast, I think we pride ourselves in covering, most of the teams, all the teams in the NBA. But I got to admit, the Orlando Magic, we have neglected them. When the season started, they were definitely a team we wanted to cover and get an expert just to break just how their season's going and how appropriate because they are kind of the toast of the NBA this year so far. And I just wanted to quote a retweet that you recently posted. 9 straight wins at the Amway Center, 11-1 in this building, 8-0 when holding a team under 100 points. But with 11 of the next 12 games are against teams with winning records. So I just want to ask you, when entering this season with the Magic, it seems like this is kind of a dream run so far. Have they reached your expectations? Is this what you have expected, or is this kind of a big shock to you?
Justin, that's a great question. They've definitely been exceeding my expectations. I knew they were going to be a much improved team. We saw evidence of that last year, and then we know the team would only get better at this point, right? So coming into this year, some of the moves that they made, some of the moves they didn't make to kind of keep the team the same, you just kind of raise that bar a little bit to what they're going to be. And it's like, cool, I expect you to be a 500 win team and be in the mix for the play in, right? And make the plan. If you don't make the plan, that's probably a failure of a season. And for them to be tied with Milwaukee, at what are they at? 16-7 right now for second in the East, and we're 28% done through the NBA season, and they have significant there's a thing called you all know small sample size. We're not real. We're kind of getting out of small sample size now. So what we're seeing with this team is real. They've beaten some really good teams, and they're protecting the home court, and those are all signs of maturity and a team taking the next step. And they've surpassed my expectations. They went on a 9-game winning streak, which is insane in my opinion. That they tied a franchise record with that. So Justin, yes, I'm having a great time. This is a fantastic season. It's always great when a team exceeds your expectations in the right direction.
How has the team handled the success so far? I'm sure, every team has the expectations of, wanting to be at top of the conference, but, for the Magic, this is new, being,
Yeah.
the leader, not only in the Eastern Conference, but in the NBA as its an entirety. So how has the team handled kind of the newfound success?
I'll say not pain free, but for the most part, really healthy growing pains, right? They added a really vocal key veteran to this team and Joe Ingles, who's really made an impact on not just on the court, but off the court with kind of helping the team mature. The coach has really done an amazing job, Coach Jamal Mosley, building a culture and a true buy-in from every player, from top to the player at the bottom of the roster not getting any playing time. Everyone, as soon as they step on the court, they go out there and fight. But at the same point, they've had some ups and downs. They went during their win streak at the tail end there when they played the Wizards, and then when they played Brooklyn, they went from being a top 5 defense to one of the bottom defenses in the entire league. I think they were ranked at for small sample size, but you look at those numbers within those handful of games, they were down at the bottom of the league around 25 or something like that, 23 in defensive ratings. Had a good couple of days off during the in-season tournament. They're kind of correcting things. They held Cleveland back to under 100 just last night, and the team is going to win with defense in this league. And the reason why I bring that all up with your question on have you seen ups and downs and how they're handling the success? I truly think when you see the defensive slips, that's when you can tell that they're kind of getting too comfortable, and that's what you see a lot of younger teams do when they have high success. They get very comfortable and then they start having bad habits. So that's kind of how I'm judging that. They're all saying the right things on camera and off camera, from what gets leaked and stuff like that. And when we're at media presses and stuff like that. So I think they're handling it pretty well. And again, we're 28% into the season. I think they've kind of learned, okay, this is sustainable. We can sustain this. I don't know if I expect them to stay in the second in the East the whole way. There's a lot of really good basketball teams in the Eastern Conference, but Maturity wise, I think they've taken that next step. I think they've accepted the success that they're having and know what they need to do to continue to sustain winning basketball.
So I want to rewind just a little bit here, Stephen, or
Let's
maybe
go.
like zoom out. And what what has happened over the last couple years to build to this season? Because for a stretch, I don't even know how long it was. Felt like maybe 5 plus years. I mean, after the Dwight Howard era, you're looking at a franchise that very much wanted to make the playoffs and seemed to always be in that like 7 to 10 seed range, before there was the play-in tournament at the end of the year. So it just seemed like no matter what, they're going to push, 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 and try to at least make a playoff run, which in some ways I appreciate, but it kind of felt like they're stuck on that kind
Yeah.
of mediocrity treadmill, so to speak. What has changed? When do you think a turning point maybe hit that led to this point now?
Matt, that's a great question, and I'll try to answer it simply, because we
Sure.
we could spend hours talking about the history of the Magic in this, 10-year post Dwight segment. You know, the new front office had come into a rebuild where there was, 5 years of, almost 4 or 5 years of failure and mixed emotions with the past GM, and a really jacked up cap sheet, roster with contracts and stuff that they had to clean up. And I think the front office was told when they signed up, cool, we'll let you do your thing, but we want to see you maximize what we currently have with a handful of players. And that, that's the Vooch era. Vucevic, Aaron Gordon, Evan Fournier. Those like those 3-4 years when this front office of Jeff Weltman and at the time John Hammond took over the Magic. They had to capitalize that as well as start to clear out the roster. Then, we kind of had the ultimate bad luck run of just multiple years of so many injuries stopping them from ever preventing them to either take a step winning wise or like make a big trade to kind of balance out the roster a little bit more and be more than just a seventh, eighth seed type team. Um, Tear the team down, trade Vooch, trade AG, trade Evan, just complete start over. And I think and we know the story at that point, right? You draft Franz and Suggs; those are really good picks. Suggs took a little bit longer to figure that out. You get some good role players with like Cole Anthony. They're drafting high character guys that are not going to have any issues off the court, that want to show up and work every day. We don't have some of the off court drama that some of the other young teams do with, no disrespect. There's some really good players on these teams, but like, the Rockets have had some issues with some stuff. The
Mhm.
Charlotte Hornets have had some issues there. Like we're not having those types of problems with our rebuild. And then, you strike gold with someone like Paulo, who, comes in and from day one, you can tell he's a franchise cornerstone. You strike gold with Franz Wagner with pick 7, right? Or yeah, he was the 7th pick, right? Who also 20 point per game, 6'10" wing that can dribble, pass, and shoot, right? It's just like they haven't had too many mistakes in the last couple of years. They haven't been perfect, right? We've had project players on this team with Bol and Mo Bamba and RJ Hampton. Those guys are gone. We all now have like high IQ basketball players that know how to make the right choices. We don't have these like raw projects that have to be kind of molded and shaped over 5-6 years to eventually be what they should be, right? The turning point, obviously Paulo, but I think even before that is like making the right picks 2 years ago with Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner, who are now in year 3 and 4, or sorry, year 3. Um, so that's, I think the Franz pick is really can really do it. And also, I can't disrespect Coach Mosley. He's not the best X's and O's coach in the world, right? He's had some growing pains along the years, but man, he built the system, he built the culture, and they have bought in from year one. And you're seeing it now like pay off completely. So I long story less long, that's kind of like it in a nutshell. We can go on any lane within there to deep dive more, but those are like some of the key checkpoints and key elements to where we're at now.
No, that's a great description. And I think in hearing you say that too, I think there are a lot of similarities between the Magic and the Rockets specifically because both hit on those picks. both have been positively impacted by their coaching, as well as both relying more heavily on their defense, I think, than other teams in the league. And I think with the Magic, that is one of the main things that gives me hope in them. Like you said, maybe they're not going to maintain the 2 seed throughout the year, but
Sure.
in I think you can overachieve in this league if you are one of those teams that is just putting in the effort night in and night out. From what you're seeing, I mean, is that a factor of these guys growing together as a core, the belief in Coach Mosley? I mean, a combination of all those things. What are you seeing that jumps out from night to night in that consistency?
It's both. I mean, they've just bought in, right? The front office has a type of wanting to draft and build defensive players with high IQs that can pass and share the ball. They're building a system offensively where anyone can bring the ball up the court, and almost, any player can get the team into their offensive systems and sets, which is really cool, and really allows, for good development for everyone, and allows also like mix and match, but like it really is like a buy-in system. You hear almost any interview that happens from a player or a coach, and the tone is always just they're bought into the system. Everyone's goal is winning. You have unselfish players right now that don't care if, you don't see a lot of like guys trying to prove themselves on the court, right? They've bought into their roles, and it's next man up with this team, and that's how they all truly believe, and they truly want to win for each other, and these are good happy vibes that you love with young teams, because it doesn't always stay that way. But
Mhm.
right now you have the star players playing like stars, which always helps, right? And then, you have the role players bought into their roles, and it's cool because, Matt, you brought up the comparison between us and the Rockets, and yeah, we're two very young teams that are having success, but a lot of the success, not a lot, some success that have come with the Rockets have been adding some really key vets that are playing huge
That's true.
rotation minutes for them, right? Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks. Um, we our vets is a 26-year-old, or sorry, 36-year-old and Joe Ingles, who gets like 16 minutes a night, and then Gary Harris, who is also like 27, coming off the bench as well. We're being led by um, a second and third year player in Paulo and Franz. We have a third year player as a shooting guard in Jalen Suggs. And hey, we haven't said this at all yet on this podcast. We're missing two starters, Wendell Carter and Markel Fultz,
Right.
who have been gone since game 5. We're winning with third stringers in our second unit, or in our starting unit, with uh, Anthony Black and Goga Patadze. So it's just like it's a culture, man. And again, that's a long answer, but it truly is a culture and a buy-in from top down. Um, and it helps to buy in when your coach is physically playing in scrimmages with the team and doing physical drills, because he's kept himself in such good shape and is an ex-basketball player. And like, you see scrimmages with, or not scrimmages, but one-on-one drills and small group drills with him in it with the team, which is really cool. So it's just a bunch of buy-in and people wanting to be the best they can for this team, which is really cool.
No, great points. And I think one of the things you also see with the Magic is like you were alluding to there. I mean, they run usually at least 10 deep in a lot of their games, and
Yeah.
guys getting significant minutes across the board. Do you think that's a factor of the youth in that they're willing to share that time a little bit more? Because I mean, you take like a veteran team like maybe the Lakers, or a team that's maybe more, I don't know, established, maybe, to put it in the last couple of years, and that might be something disastrous for the chemistry. Why do you think the Magic are able to do that? And also, is that a part of their success? I mean, are they able to stay a little bit more fresh that way and give that hustle and energy?
It's the same style that coach has run the last couple of years, right?
Mm,
When this team finally got healthy last year, he was running a 10-man rotation until like the play-in push at the end of the season, when they were attempting to win the last like 10, 12 games. On a real serious note, they tightened to a 9-man rotation at that point. I think it's just the current system that they're having. And yes, it helps that this team is deep and have a lot of versatility within each position. It's like, how do you not try and find time for you know, Jonathan Isaac, right? But you also have him playing next to Joe Ingles, who is having a huge impact on this team, even at 36. And Mo Wagner, who is one of the best scoring big man off the bench in the entire league right now. And so it's like you just have too many guys that are contributing in such a high level for this team that you can't take them off the court to an extent. Like that second unit would crumble to an extent if you took Joe Ingles off the court. He just does so much for them offensively. Flip side of that, you take Jonathan Isaac off the court, that second unit crumbles defensively. So it's like you need everyone to kind of function at this moment. I'm sure they will tighten the rotation when this season gets a little bit deeper and maybe we're in the last quarter really trying to tighten up for the playoffs, but right now success is working. It'll be a little interesting, like there's debate within Magic fans right now when Wendell Carter and Markel Fultz come back, like how do you keep Goga off the court? He has been so good in that starting unit. Are we going to see 11-man rotation? Personally, I hope not. But those are like some thoughts going into the Magic community right now, just because his team is playing so well and is so deep at the moment.
Kind of a great problem to have in
Yeah,
in some ways.
exactly. Yeah.
It might be unfair to say this just because of the starting lineup not resembling what was going to enter the season, but with the Magic doing so well, I mean, the natural inclination is to have high expectations heading into the playoffs. So, you know, looking at this team as best you can, predicting how it will look headed towards like March, April. What are kind of things that you're seeing within like the Eastern Conference that like you're seeing from the Magic now that they'll need to tighten up in order for them to remain at the top of the conference and maybe be in contention for maybe a home court spot?
Yeah, man, home court's going to be hard no matter what, man.
Sure,
Like we know the Bucks are coming and they're already here. I mean, we're tied with them, right?
sure.
We know the 76ers are a real threat too. At some point those teams are going to continue to tighten up. The trade deadline might shake some things out for us too as a team. There might be a move or two that we make, but we know these teams that are really trying to win are going to make some moves too. Atlanta could be another team that like has this, a good run that comes in them, makes another move, or New York. There's all teams that are always kind of like picking at the trade deadline to try and take that step to be in that contention thing. Where the Magic, they're probably not going to make a big splashy trade. Maybe they do a small consolidation to kind of clean up the bottom of the roster a little bit, open up a spot or two, and maybe get another vet in or something like that. But I don't think we're going to go see like this massive trade this current deadline. So what they need to do to, I'll say, at least stay within like the top five, be in that 4 or 5 fight towards the end of the season. Like they have to stay a top 5 defense. They don't have the offense to back them up. I mean, right now we are technically ranked 16 in the league at that, offensively, but we also know, hello, my cat says hi for anyone watching video. We also know that we don't have shooters on this team. Maybe that could change at the deadline, but they have to win through their defense, right? Their offense comes from good defense, right? They get points in transition, they attack the paint, and a lot of that comes from grabbing rebounds and pushing the pace. So, like, if our defense stays high, that's going to promote good offense. So we have to stay a top 5 defense in order to stay somewhat respectable offensively. And that's going to be the key to success, in my opinion, to be, within the top 4, 5, and 6, kind of stay out of that play-in section of the playoffs. And whether it's home court or just being a playoff team without the plan would be a huge success. And also just staying healthy. We have a lot of guys like, Jonathan Isaac and Jalen Suggs go out. Those are both guys that have had injury histories. Like the defense could slip pretty big because there are defensive anchors. So top 5 defense, semi like league average offense, and health. Those are the 3 things that we need to do to stay, out of that play-in race and into the playoff race.
Stephen, you already mentioned kind of your thoughts on how the trade deadline might go, which I think is perfectly reasonable. Looking at the roster, do you see any big needs right now? I mean, with you guys being so deep, you've got good play from the bigs, you've got good perimeter defense, you've got some pretty good contributions like all around from the guards. I mean, I would say maybe like the biggest need might be point guard, but we have to wait on Fultz as well. So it's kind of a tough call. And
Yeah.
then as you know, I mean, bringing in a point guard is like no small order when you're trying to have continuity on a team. But I guess long question short, where do you see the biggest needs for this team moving forward, even if that's not at the trade deadline right now?
Yeah, no, great question. I mean, shooting, first of all, like the
Hmm.
thing we've all been yelling from top to bottom. Like, we need shooting. We need guys when Paulo and Franz drive and decide to kick instead of attack the basket. They need guys that can hit open shots, right? And so that's gonna come, excuse me. That's a guy that's like kind of on my target list, either for a trade or like an off-season like a acquisition is like, let's go get Buddy Healed. We need a guy that can put up 6, 7, 8 attempts from three naturally without like having to have high usage rate to get those off and hit them at a 38, 39, 40% clip rate. That's kind of like a big thing that's going to really unlock this offense is getting a shooter with that type of gravity on this team, you know. Um, and then the other thing, I mean, you kind of hit it like Markel Fultz. I like Markel Fultz. He's a really good point guard. This is not like an anti Markel Fultz comment I'm about to make, but he is a higher usage point guard. And we are seeing how much offense success we are having where the ball is flowing a bit more and being allowed to, the offense is allowed to set up a little bit more natural, not naturally, but just within anyone's hands can kind of set up the offense. And so you sort of do got to ask yourself the question like, we bring back Markel Fultz. He definitely keeps us more organized in certain situations, but is he the long term answer when we're seeing the success that we're having right now with this type of ball movement and whatnot? Could we use someone more at that position that maybe is not as good as a ball handler, but can also shoot the ball a little bit better from three and just be a little bit more diverse offensively in that way. So you do got to ask that question, particularly with his contract being up at the end of the season, and we haven't given him an extension yet. I do think there's that question mark there. We also drafted Anthony Black, who is 3 inches taller than Markel Fultz, and in my opinion, already like if not as good, maybe even better defender than Markel Fultz. So um, he's got a ways to go offensively though, to be fully transparent. So yeah, that's a question, probably one you got to decide a little bit later. I think Jalen Suggs has definitely prioritized himself as the bigger, impactful player between him and Fultz. So now it's like, can this team win with both of them together? If not, my perspective, you hold on to Jalen Suggs and you find an upgrade or a better fit, not an upgrade, just a better fit in Markel in the point guard position with Markel Fultz. And maybe that guy's on our team with Anthony Black. I'm not sure. He's a rookie. He's still pretty raw, but those are kind of like my addresses. Like shooting, let's figure out what we got with Markel Fultz and go from there. Yeah. And then also much lower on the priority list, you kind of got to think about center in another year or two. I love Wendell Carter. He's great, but he misses time every single season. He plays like, 80, 85 games every single season. You got to question, is he the right person long term? But he's on such a good contract right now. Like that's a problem for another year or two. So
Stephen, I want to ask you the temperature of just the Atlanta Magic fan base. We like to ask our experts, like, what is the kind of fan reaction like in each particular NBA city? Like, how they feel about the Magic? I mean, Matt mentioned just, kind of the recent struggles of the Magic previously, and them just kind of going through this phase where, they're having huge success now. What is kind of their feelings or expectations for the Magic overall? Are they kind of just yearning for a championship? Or are they patient? Are they willing just to kind of see the kind of process play out?
yeah, Justin, great question. I'll tell you one thing, ticket prices have gone up, and that's a good thing. There's so much more demand and attention for this team right now than the last couple of years. There's good positive energy going on right now. We're kind of in that like happy phase where it's like, yes, winning needs to happen, but I think we're okay with taking that next organic step and not going from like zero to like, hey, we need to win a championship this year, right? You know, there might be some more, I hate the word casual, but people that don't are not diehard nerding out on the team that might be a little bit like have unrealistic expectations. But I think anyone who's like halfway educated on kind of where this team is at can kind of understand, prove yourself that you're a playoff team, make some noise, learn from that, and then another year or two, let's get those championship expectations out, because it's just like pretty unrealistic to be a true title contender with guys year two, three, four. As your leaders, you kind of need them to get a little bit more experience, and the only way to do that is through the playoffs. Um, Magic fans are happy. The city is buzzing. People are excited. This is like that dream year that everyone wants to have with a young team where it's like, this is so fun. They're young, they're winning. Like if they make a mistake and lose a couple games, that's okay because mostly they're winning and it's being led by youth. So the city's buzzing. People are you're seeing Paulo and Franz jerseys running around. Every now and then, you even see a Joe Ingles jersey, which is cool, makes me happy. It's a really good time in Orlando, and Orlando Magic fans are like truly buying into this team. The arena is like some of the loudest I've ever heard it in years, which is really cool.
What's that dynamic like between the Magic and the Heat fans, or between those franchises? I mean, is there like a legit in-state rivalry there? I know the Heat have had more success as a
Yeah.
franchise overall, but is there kind of like, I don't know, like a Red Sox Yankees kind of thing? I mean, maybe not to that epic of a level, but what's it like between those fan bases?
It's funny you asked that. Magic fans, I think, hate Heat fans more than Heat fans hate Magic fans. Um, because we've always kind of been looked at like, outside of the couple of runs as like the second fiddle in the state, which is how much more success Miami has had. And also, like, Miami fans travel like Orlando is such a transient city. When Miami had any form of
Hmm.
success, they flood our arena, and it's a really easy road trip for diehards to make too, to come from Miami to Orlando. So like a Miami Orlando game, there's been years where Miami Heat chants are louder than Orlando Magic chants, and it's like that gets really frustrating. Magic fans love to like be in the mentions and mess with them, and they'll give it back to us too. My opinion, I think it's all good and fun. Just good humor between two, like healthy. There, I think we have more unhealthy rivalries with other fan bases. I think the Magic team get up a little bit harder for Miami, just because they are in state. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know how much of a rivalry it is with that team right now. But I think the Magic team always want to get up a little bit harder for anyone that's playing within Florida, so they can be the Florida team.
You mentioned other teams. I gotta follow up. Who else are the Magic beefing with?
I was gonna
The
say.
Magic beat with the Celtics right now. The players
Okay.
do for sure. Mostly because of Eddie House made some funny comments last year about the team,
Oh,
and and
Oh,
and he never seems to want to like own up for them. And he just continues to lean into those comments more. So like the fans and the Magic players both like get big up for Celtics games right now. We've won 4 in a row. This weekend's pretty big because we actually play Boston on Friday, in Boston, and on Sunday. So big weekend for the Orlando Magic and Boston Celtics. If you want to find some drama, just tune into the Orlando Magic Twitter world. You'll have some fun there. Um,
I'm totally oblivious. I'm gonna tune in now for sure.
right.
little rivalry with or with Toronto Raptors too.
Mm.
The whole like Scotty Barnes, Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner thing. Definitely with the fans, probably a little bit with, you can tell Jalen Suggs gets up a little bit harder for that game too. Um, Rockets, I wouldn't say team wise there's a rivalry there, but our fans definitely like to be in the mentions of Rockets teams. Fan bases again, young up and coming team kind of thing is kind of
Sure
like
thing.
where we kind of poke around as a fan base. But yeah, I'd say Boston right now is probably like our biggest rival as far as like the team that the players get up for and the team that the fans get up for too.
No, that's really interesting, and hopefully, I think that's healthy for the league is to have
Yeah,
these rivalries for sure.
for sure.
Um,
It's fun. It definitely makes it
yeah,
more fun in my opinion.
totally. I'll let you go with this. The in-season tournament's over. Just want to get your thoughts on positive, negative, thumbs up, thumbs down. What kind of your overall thoughts of this kind of first year experiment of
Two
the
thumbs up. I
yeah.
loved it. It was a lot of fun. Can't oh, I have fireworks behind my head with the double thumbs up. That's fun. Uh yeah, I don't think you can really go wrong with the in-season tournament right now. I mean, it provided better intensity in games. It definitely created a buzz around the league. Fans tuned in. Magic had a nice little run. They need to make some, I think they gained some good valuable information this season to make some adjustments for the future seasons. But I'm excited. I was bought in from game one, from day one when they announced it. Like, can't wait to see how they make some tweaks along the way. But right now, I think it's already a good time, and I'm looking forward to next year's already.
Awesome, Steven. This has been a fantastic chat. Can you let our audience know where they can find you on social media, the podcast that you're on, anything else you're focused on as well for the new year?
Yeah, I am Stephen Cameron. You can find me directly on X at Stephen Stephen 0610. That is my account. I do content under Orlando Magic HQ. They are at O Magic HQ on Twitter, and I think Orlando Magic HQ and all the other platforms. And we cover the team from top to bottom. We have multiple different podcast shows. Mine called The Close Up. Then you have the flagship Orlando Magic HQ with my partners Al and Anthony. We have reporters at every home game. We do post game articles after every single game. We'll do deep dive articles. We just had an exclusive interview with Goga Patadze, with one of our lighters named Luke Scoche, who also he writes with us and also does some Boston sports coverage. Um, so we're the content home for Orlando Magic news that is not paid media by some other big backed flagship, and that's where you can find me and my work.
Awesome. This has been a fantastic chat. Thanks for spending some time with us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Justin and Matt. It's been a lot of fun chatting with you.